Men, if you have any of the following sexual or bodily function difficulties:
Premature ejaculation.
maintaining an erection but not getting an erection,
Pain with sexual activity.
dribbling after you finish urinating, maybe noticeable urine on your pants,
Chronic pelvic pain or genital pain.
then you probably have an overactive pelvic floor, meaning you need to work on relaxing the muscles in your pelvic floor as well as the surrounding hip muscles. This video is a 10-minute guided workout to focus on exactly what you need to do to address the symptoms of an overactive pelvic floor. I've got Lance Frank here. He is a physical therapist and a pelvic floor specialist, and he's going to take you through this routine that he would give his patients in his practice in his clinic. You guys don't need any fitness experience, no flexibility required to do this workout. Just follow along and do your best. All right, Lance, let's do it.
Okay, so first up, we're gonna go through how to relax your pelvic floor. And to do this, I find it easiest if patients are laying on the floor, on the ground, or in the bed, somewhere that they can be comfortable and relax. Knees are gonna be up towards the ceiling. So the first part of this is just breath work, knowing how to do what's called a diaphragmatic breath. So the first thing you're gonna do is take a big breath in through your belly. Try to think about the ribs inflating 360 degrees, front to back, side to side, all the way around. You're just trying to inflate, breathe. You're thinking about breathing that air all the way down into the pelvis. I tell patients, breathe into your butt. So after a few of these breaths, you're gonna take a big breath in, and then exhale, blow all that air out. So with this breath, the ribs are gonna expand and then the belly's gonna rise. You wanna see the ribs inflate first and then the belly's gonna rise after that. All the air should be breathed down into the pelvis with that inhale, and then exhale, you're just blowing all that air out like you're blowing through a straw. So now, after the breath component, we're gonna add in the pelvic floor mobility. And so whenever you're doing a pelvic floor contraction, you're thinking of squeezing the pelvic floor, squeezing the muscles of the pelvic floor like you're trying to stop the flow of urine, or you're trying to stop yourself from passing gas. So we're gonna pause the breathing, the breath work for a second, and just focus on the pelvic floor mobility. And so I'm gonna have Dean do some of these cues for me. So just do a contraction like you're trying to stop the flow of urine, or like you're trying to make your penis jump, or you're trying to tighten the sphincter like you're holding in air. And then now you're just gonna let that go. And then let's do another contraction, try to do a squeeze, try to pull up and in, and then let that go. So some common compensations that people will wanna do, people might really tense through the abs, people might tense through the groin or the inner thighs or the glutes. You really only wanna contract the muscles as if you're sitting on a bike seat. So let's do one of those contractions again. Make sure that you're isolating the right muscles. And then so now, with somebody with an overactive pelvic floor or somebody who's holding a lot of tension, we want to do the opposite of that. So now we're going to do a lengthening or a bulge. So with a lengthen, you're thinking of the external anal sphincter expanding, kind of like a mouth yawning or a flower blooming or a jellyfish kind of billowing out.
Let your anus blossom.
Let your anus blossom. These cues are silly, but if you imagine and use imagery cues, it really helps to kind of connect the dots between the mind and the body. So we're gonna start with a contraction again. So I want you to squeeze, try to pull the pelvic floor like you're trying to stop the flow of urine. Now I want you to let that go and try to gently expand between the sit bones. Try to bulge the perineum like a mouth yawning or a flower blooming. Now you're gonna do a squeeze, try to pull up and in. And then now let that go and do a gentle bulge or a bear down or a widening. You might feel some pressure between the sit bones. You might feel the area between the legs expanding.
What if you feel like you want to fart?
That's completely normal. A lot of patients say, like, it feels like I might accidentally pass gas, or it feels like I'm gonna pee myself. And that's a normal sensation for what we're trying to do. That's actually what happens whenever you're sitting on the toilet trying to go to the bathroom. So now we've gone through the pelvic floor mobility. We're gonna try to combine the breath work with the pelvic floor mobility. So step one, as you breathe in, the diaphragm is gonna drop down and push all of that pressure on top of the pelvic floor. So the pelvic floor should relax and lengthen. So as you take a big breath in, you're thinking of making the ribs expand, trying to make the belly rise, and at the same time, you're doing a gentle bulge down and out. So let's go through that. So Dean, take a big breath in. Big inhale, think about lengthening, bulging through the pelvic floor like you're trying to pass gas. And then exhale, squeeze, pull the pelvic floor up and in. And then do one more. Inhale. Try to lengthen the pelvic floor down and out, like you're trying to relax, trying to pass gas. And then exhale, try to squeeze, pull the pelvic floor up and in. Good. So now, if somebody has a lot of tension in their pelvic floor and you have any of the symptoms that we were talking about before, ED, premature ejaculation, constipation, we don't want to be doing a bunch of Kegels over and over and over again because that might actually make symptoms worse. A pelvic floor contraction is what most people know of as a Kegel. And so we go through this the first half of this exercise so that you know which muscles that we're isolating, that we're trying to target. But as you're working on this at home, when you're building this into your programming, we only want to work on the lengthening of the relaxation piece. So what that means is that when you take a big breath in, you're going to try to inflate the ribs like an umbrella 360 degrees, and you're trying to bulge the pelvic floor down and out at the same time. But on the exhale, you're not doing an active squeeze. You're just going to let your body do whatever it wants to do. That amount of tension that you naturally hold is going to make the pelvic floor contract already. We're not trying to enhance that contraction. So this is really about breath work and building that connection between the brain and the pelvic floor. So let's do a couple of these breaths just for practice. So you're going to take a big breath in, try to inflate through the belly, a gentle bulge out the perineum like you're trying to pass gas. Exhale, no active squeeze. You're just going back to your natural state. And then let's just do one more. Inhale, expand, try to bulge through the perineum, gently push or bear down, and then exhale, no squeeze. Good. So that is what I call in the clinic a pelvic floor drop or a relaxation. This is step one for anybody that's coming into the clinic that is coming in with any of the symptoms that we talked about before. I always make sure that they learn this first.
And if we're doing this on our own, how many times should we do it? About how long should it take?
10 to 15 breaths shouldn't take you longer than a minute, max 2 minutes. This should be kind of like a warm-up or a precursor to the rest of everything else that we're going to go through.
So the duration of the breathing isn't important?
No, however long it takes you to do 10 to 15 breaths, whatever feels comfortable for you.
Okay, cool.
So we've gone through pelvic floor mobility and pelvic floor relaxation. So now we're going to implement this into a couple different exercises. So now we're going to go into what I like to call a supported deep squat. I'm going to have Dean comfortable up against this wall here. You want to use a wall or a door, something that can support your body weight. I always tell my patients you want your feet far enough away that you can drop down into a squat, but close enough that you feel fully supported. So the top of your butt and your low back should be resting completely against the wall. Heels should be flat. And this is a perfect position. There you go. So low back, kind of press up against the wall. Good, there you go. Elbows pressing into the knees. You're going to widen, try to separate, get a nice stretch into the inner thighs. This is a perfect position to practice this breathing mechanism because the pelvic floor is already on a max stretch. Sometimes patients tell me that they have a hard time feeling that lengthening or bulge when they're just laying on a table. This stretch is perfect because it really helps you to feel when things are expanding down there. So in this position, you're going to take a big breath in, just like we practiced. And at the same time, you're going to think about dropping the pelvic floor down to the ground, kind of like you're passing gas. And then again, on the exhale, you're not doing an active squeeze. You're just inhaling and lengthening, trying to expand. And then on the exhale, just letting your body recoil into its natural state. Good.
And what if people have issues getting into this position? Are there alternatives?
Yes. So if this is too much for the knees or the low back, there is another alternative where people are laying on their back. In typical yoga, traditional yoga practice, this is called happy baby. So you're laying on your back, grabbing your knees, and it's the same breathing pattern as what we've already done. But I prefer the deep squat over this because gravity is kind of forcing your body down and it forces more of an expansion and people can relax into a little better, assuming they don't have any knee or low back issues. But this is another alternative for that because it's in the exact same position. You're just kind of supporting the legs to hold everything up. So in this position, you're just taking a big breath in again, doing a gentle bulge, expanding through the pelvic floor of the perineum, exhaling, recoiling into your natural state.
If you have a wall, can you just rest your feet against the wall? Would that make it relax?
Yep. This is another alternative.
Cool.
Good.
And we're supposed to do this how long? How long? How many breaths?
Again, 10 to 15 breaths. Shouldn't take longer than a minute or two at max. Try to build this in with the rest of all these exercises once a day, ideally at least once a day, ideally twice a day. Okay, so now we've gone through Happy Baby, an alternative for the supported deep squat. My next go-to exercise for an overactive pelvic floor, somebody with a lot of tension, is a dynamic frog, or what I call a dynamic frog. So you're going to be in a child's pose position with knees kind of supported out as far as you can tolerate to get a nice stretch in the inner thighs. And then, so hands are going to be in front of you, kind of pushing the hips back towards your heels to get a nice stretch in through the glutes, the low back, the inner thighs. And then you're going to shift your weight forwards and let your hips hang heavy towards the floor, let your feet kind of roll out, and you should feel a nice stretch in the front of the lower abdomen. Try to relax the glutes so that everything is nice and stretched. And then you're going to shift your weight back, hips over the heels. Good. And then exhale. So if we want to incorporate the breath work and the pelvic floor mobility that we just went over, whenever you inhale, whenever you sit your butt back, you're going to inhale, and at the end here, you're going to think about doing that drop, that pelvic floor lengthening. And then on the exhale, you'll shift your weight forward, kind of rock the hips forward, let the hips hang heavy, get that nice stretch in the front of the abdomen and the groin. Good. Inhale, gentle lengthen, gentle bulge. Exhale, shift the hips forwards. Good. All right. Next up.
How many times?
So 10 to 15 hip shifts back and forth is a good number for one set.
Okay.
After that, let's move into what I call a kneeling adductor stretch. So you're going to be down on one knee with the leg, the other leg directly out to the side. So with this one, you can start off with hands on the ground. You can go down to your elbows. You can go down to your forearms, whatever's comfortable. But with this, you should feel a pretty big stretch on the inside of the thigh. So with the leg stretched out, I expect you to feel a nice stretch on the inside of the thigh and the groin here. And this one is another perfect position to practice the breathing and the lengthening mechanism because, again, everything's on stretch. With this, we're really trying to target the groin and the inner thigh muscles. So you're going to take a big breath in, try to lengthen out, and then exhale, recoil, let everything go back to your natural state. So an easy number, an easy metric to remember for all of these is just 10 to 15 breaths, 10 to 15 kind of movement-based reps, pairing the inhale with the pelvic floor lengthening. And then obviously you would do both sides.
And yeah, if you're not that flexible, then feet would come in more, feet can come out if you're more flexible, and you can also bring your hands further down if you're more flexible.
Okay, so next up is one of my personal favorites. I call it 90-90. So you're gonna sit with one leg out and stretch out in front in a 90-degree angle, and the other leg stretched out to the side in a 90-degree angle. With this, you're really targeting the muscles on the outsides of the hip. So I have patients, you're going to shift your weight forwards over that front leg to get a nice stretch. In this position that Dean's in, the stretch is going to be on this left hip, these left hip rotators where they attach into the pelvis. And then to get to the other leg, I always have patients just shift your hands behind your hips. You're going to lean backwards, and this should direct the stretch. You're going to think about sitting in Dean's position. This is the right hip bone. You're going to think about sitting that right sit bone down to the ground. So you should feel a nice stretch kind of in the, maybe even in the groin, also in the side of the hip, and then to the back of the glute over here on the right side, or the left side. So again, 10 to 15 weight shifts front to back, rotate to the other side, rinse, wash, repeat.
Just like that, moving back and forth.
Holding each position for a couple seconds.
And should you inhale to reset and exhale to come into it?
So with this one, the breath work isn't super important. It's more about the movement. We're not specifically targeting the pelvic floor directly in this position.
Okay, so we've gone through this routine. It's about 10 minutes. How often should we do it? And how long until we can expect noticeable improvements?
So I would do this every day for the first couple of weeks. You should start to see some improvements within the first couple of weeks, but progress and healing doesn't just happen overnight. So it's going to take a couple months of consistent work of this programming to see actual noticeable improvements.
Got it. Cool. All right, guys. Well, you heard Lance. So come back to this workout, do it every day, and hopefully after a couple of weeks, you'll notice the improvements. If you like this video, be sure to like it. Leave a comment. If you want to see more from Lance, more of these types of workouts, let me know in the comment section. Subscribe so you don't miss out when these videos come out. We have more of these pelvic floor series workouts coming out. And if you want to follow Lance, more information on pelvic floor health, check out Lance at...
You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, at Lance in Your Pants, or you can check out my website, flexptatl.com.
Cool. All right, guys, for an overview on pelvic floor dysfunction, check out this video right here that we recorded. That's going to help you figure out if you do have any pelvic floor dysfunction and hopefully give you some information on what to do about it. So see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.